Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let's start by defining criminal law. Criminal law is a branch or division of public law that defines crimes, treats of their nature, and provides for their punishment.
Okay, can you please define crime?
Okay, you're right.
Sorry.
Crimes are crime is an act either omitted or committed in violation of a public law, forbidding or commanding it. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's clear
Okay.
now.
So a crime is either an act, either a commission or omission of an act.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let us proceed with the constitutional limitations on the power of Congress to enact penal laws.
Okay.
The first one is that the penal law must be general in application.
What do you mean by general in application?
Okay. General in application means that the law must be equally applied to everyone in the same circumstances.
Can you please give a concrete example of that one?
Okay, concrete example would be RA 9262, which takes into consideration a very specific group of people, women. It is a fact in our society that women are more prone to be victims of violence. Another example would be RA 7610, which takes into consideration the fact that children are more likely to be abused or exploited.
Okay.
So it is constitutional for a law to take it is constitutional to have classifications of people, as long as the classification, the group of people has is characterized by substantial difference compared to another group of people.
Okay.
Okay? So, let us proceed with the second constitutional limitation. The penal law must observe due process.
What do you mean by due process?
Okay, due process has to do with fairness. In our country, due process has two aspects: substantive due process and procedural due process.
Okay.
Substantive due process has to do with the intrinsic validity of a law, while procedural due process has to do with the principle that a judgment must be given after a judicial and fair trial and based on the evidences that were introduced in such trial. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. The next constitutional limitation is that the law must not give a unusual or cruel punishment. I think that's very obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that I have to explain.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do understand that one.
The next constitutional limitation is that the law must not be a bill of attainder or act as a bill of attainder.
What do you mean by bill of attainder? Sorry.
Okay, a bill of attainder is a legislative act that inflicts punishment without judicial trial. As I said, there must be due process, so there must be a trial, and the Constitution also says that our government has three branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. And the legislative cannot do functions of the judiciary. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the last constitutional limitation is that the law must not be an ex post facto law.
What is an ex post facto law?
Okay.
If I said that right,
Yes.
sorry.
An ex post facto law is a law that allows the criminal prosecution of an act committed before the enactment of the law. For example, if today Congress enacts a law punishing, let's say, looking at very beautiful women, and yesterday I looked at you, okay, and you're a very beautiful woman, so they cannot prosecute me today because the act was made yesterday, which is before the enactment of the law. But if I look at you tomorrow after the enactment of the law, then the crime committed would be after the enactment of the law, and that is a prospective application of the law, and that can exist. Okay?
That's what happened to Haydenco when he got...
Yes, so he wasn't prosecuted because
Yeah.
there was no
With the scandal.
anti-voyeurism law yet. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So let's
Understand.
proceed with the characteristics of penal laws.
Okay.
Okay, the first one is generality. It means that all crimes committed in the Philippines by all those that resides here,
Even foreign nationals?
yes, even foreigners,
Okay.
can be prosecuted here in the Philippines.
Okay.
So it means that all crimes made in the Philippines, but by anyone who resides in the Philippines, can be prosecuted.
Okay.
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 Then we have territoriality. Territoriality means that the crime must be committed within the territory of the Philippines. Of course, we have a few exceptions.
Like what? For
Like,
example?
okay, crimes committed by public officers in connection with their functions,
Okay.
or and other exceptions that I will explain in another video. Okay.
Okay, sure.
So the last one is prospectivity. I don't have to explain it because I've already explained it in the ex post facto
So
law.
it's the same
That's
thing?
the same thing. It means
Okay.
that the law must be prospective in application.
Okay.
Now let us discuss about the philosophies underlying criminal law here in the
Okay.
Philippines. We have the classical and the positivist. In the classical, the basis of criminal liability is free will. It means that we have choices. Okay?
Yeah.
And while in the positivist, the basis of criminal liability is that a man is inherent, or a woman is inherently good, but because of the environment, because of circumstances, he becomes sick and commits crime.
Okay.
So in the classical, the punishment is for retribution. That's the purpose of the punishment, to punish. That's it.
Okay.
While in the positivist, the purpose of the punishment is to correct the individual, the criminal. In fact, we have what we call the correctional institutions.
Okay, that's why it's called correctional.
Yes.
Okay.
So, in the classical, the emphasis is on the act that a crime is committed, while in the positivist, the emphasis is on the offender, and we have to take into consideration also the circumstances of the offender. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's pretty much the very basics of criminal law.